Welcome to Sunshine Lost, a series focusing on individuals who disappeared throughout the state of Florida. I'm your host, Benjamin Thomas. Sara Gail Ebersole was born on September 18, 1996, and is the youngest child of 7 children. Sara was primarily raised by her maternal aunt and uncle in Sarasota, Florida. During the time Sara disappeared, she was working as an exotic dancer. At 18 years old, Sara got married to a man named Thomas, but divorced him a year later. She had a relationship soon after and had a daughter with her boyfriend, a relationship which didn't last long either. Her daughter lived full-time with the father at the time Sara was last seen. During the time Sara went missing, she had been living with a roommate in Orange Lake near Reddick, Florida. Around 7:00 p.m. on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, Sara sent a text to her sister asking for a ride home from work. Her sister replied saying she was busy and wasn't available to pick her up. During the same evening, Sara found herself at a Circle K gas station on the corner of North US 441 and West Highway 318, located about 3 miles north of Reddick. At 10:11 p.m., Sara sent another text to her sister letting her know she was getting into a random truck with some cowboys, quote, hoping they took her for a ride, end quote. Whether she meant that she hoped to get a ride from the men or she was just texting flirtatiously is not known. Circle K CCTV cameras spotted Sara getting into a black pickup truck with 2 men. According to the Marion County Sheriff's Office, she entered the truck willingly and did not appear to be under duress. This was the last on-camera confirmed sighting of Sara. Public Information Officer Zach Moore of the Marion County Sheriff's Office told Dateline NBC in an email that authorities determined the identity of the 2 males in the black pickup truck. He said the men were interviewed by authorities, but were unable to release any information, including their names. He also confirmed that Sara was last seen during the early morning hours of March 3rd, getting into a blue sedan, possibly a Hyundai, but was also unable to confirm if police have found the blue car or its owner. Zach Moore also said there has been no evidence uncovered of foul play. However, the length of time that Sara has not been heard from elevates the concern for her well-being. According to police, the 2 men in the black pickup drove Sara down to a house where a man by the name of James Robinson resided at the time, in the 18,000 block of North US Highway 441 in Reddick, located less than a quarter-mile north of the Circle K gas station. Public Information Officer Zach Moore said, quote, she spent some amount of that night with Mr. Robinson, who resided in one half of the subdivided residence, as well as James Schaller and Tisha McDermott, a couple who resided in the other half of the subdivided residence, end quote. James lived in a duplex with James Schaller and Tisha McDermott living in the other unit. Police reported that Sara was left at James's house and spent the next several hours hanging out with the 2, Jameses and Tisha. According to the 3 individuals, at some point between 3:00 a.m. and 5:00 a.m., Sara left the house in the passenger seat of a newer model blue Hyundai sedan. The individuals at the house described the driver as a Hispanic male in his mid-30s with long dark hair and a thin build. Officer Moore stated, if the residents of that house are to be believed, Sara left the house in a newer model blue sedan, possibly a Hyundai, driven by a man who was described as being a driver for Uber and who was Hispanic in his mid-30s, approximately 5 feet 8 inches tall, with a thin build and long dark hair. The residents believed the driver to be an Uber driver, but police were able to confirm that Sara did not schedule an Uber ride that night, and she must have gotten a ride off the books, or she was picked up by a third party. On a Facebook post by the Marion County Sheriff's Office, it states, quote, "That night, sometime after midnight, Sara either left that residence alive or she didn't. If Sara didn't leave that residence alive, it means that something happened to her while she was there, and that the story of the Uber driver was fabricated to send detectives down a rabbit hole," end quote. Detectives investigated the alleged Uber ride and were able to confirm that Sara did not order the Uber during the night she disappeared. However, they are unable to rule out the possibility that she received an off-the-books ride from a Gainesville-based Uber driver. Since the night Sara disappeared, she has not posted once on her social media accounts. She has not touched her bank accounts. She has not texted anyone, and she hasn't been in any contact with her loved ones. 1 month after Sara disappeared, her older sister, Michelle Tullis, who was 14 years older than Sara, told Dateline NBC, quote, "I just know that I'm going to track down whoever hurt her," end quote. She described her relationship with Sara as extremely close, despite their age difference. She was in the 10th grade when Sara was just 1 year old. Without going into much detail, Michelle said that their parents weren't involved in Sara's life, which is why she was raised by her maternal aunt and uncle in Sarasota. Michelle further said, quote, "Sara's pretty much an explorer. Doesn't matter if someone says, 'Let's go four-wheeling,' 'Let's go swimming,' 'Let's go ride a surfboard,' any new experience," end quote. Once Sara reached her teenage years, she began occasionally staying with her sister Michelle, 2 hours from Sarasota in the town of Dunellen. When Sara turned 18 in 2014, she got married and moved into a house with her husband just down the street from her sister Michelle. Regarding their marriage, Michelle said that within a year, quote, "they were kind of already separated. They were just too young," end quote. After separating with her husband, Sara moved to Reddick and was living with a roommate at the time she went missing. The last time Michelle communicated with Sara was on March 2nd, the day before she disappeared. Quote, "She had messaged me around 7-something, asking if I was available to give her a ride from work. I told her I wasn't available, I was sorry, and she said that was okay," end quote. Michelle received another text from Sara at 7:50 p.m. Quote, "She messaged me to tell my kids that she said hi and that she loves them. At 10:11, she messaged me that she was getting into a random truck with some cowboys and that she hoped they took her on a ride," end quote. That was the last time Michelle heard from Sara. Michelle knew something was wrong the next day. Quote, "I called her and it went straight to voicemail. Then the roommate messaged asking if I had heard from Sara, and I said I have not. It is extremely unlike Sara to not respond to messages, especially from her roommate. So that sent up a red flag with her because Sara always responds," end quote. The roommate contacted police to file a missing persons report that day, but said police informed her that she has to wait a week to see if Sara returns first. According to the roommate, when she left to go to work, she left without taking any clothes with her. Michelle also told Dateline, quote, "I just feel like Sara's probably not alive wherever she is. She's never gone even a week without speaking to somebody and getting on social media," end quote. Regarding the possible Uber ride the night she disappeared, Michelle said, quote, "She would take Uber everywhere she went to. If someone had driven her before, she would feel comfortable now to reach out to that person and maybe they would set up a payment plan on a discounted rate," end quote. Police confirmed that they were able to trace her phone to the location where it last pinged with a cell tower, which was located in Polk County, Florida, about 2.5 hours south of Reddick. In December of 2023, a search was conducted on the residence where Sara was last seen, the residence occupied by James Robinson, where the black pickup truck took Sara after the Circle K gas station that night, and police have not confirmed if they were able to retrieve any evidence from the house. 1 year after Sara was last seen, in March of 2024, investigators made the announcement that they determined who was driving the blue Hyundai sedan that picked up Sara from James's house in the early morning hours. The vehicle belonged to that of Tyrone D. Mormon. According to Sarah's sister, Sara did not know Tyrone. Through a number of leads police obtained, without going into detail, it was determined that Sara indeed left with Tyrone Mormon during the early morning hours of March 3rd, and it's unclear what Tyrone's connection is to Sara. When Tyrone was initially questioned by police, he denied he had any involvement and stated he wasn't even in town at the time. However, the other 3 individuals at the house that night were convinced Tyrone was the man who Sara left with. Detectives asked if they could obtain Tyrone's cell phone, but he claimed he had broken the phone and threw it away. A witness came forward informing detectives that Tyrone indeed still had his phone. When confronted with this information, Tyrone turned over the phone after learning police obtained a search warrant for his home. Because he lied to police, he was arrested on a charge of providing false information to law enforcement. The next day, he was released after posting a $10,000 bond. After getting out of jail, he has refused to speak with police any further. Police confiscated Tyrone's phone and determined that both Sara and Tyrone were together at a 24-hour convenience store in the northwest area of Marion County, Florida, during the early morning hours of the same day Sara disappeared, suggesting Tyrone and Sara drove directly to the convenience store after leaving James Robinson's house. After Tyrone was arrested in December 2023, Sara's sister Michelle told Dateline that she believes Tyrone isn't the person responsible for Sara's disappearance. Quote, "I don't think he has anything to do with her disappearance at all. It's a lot of speculation," end quote. I found a post from someone claiming to be Sara's friend who provided some insight into a time Sara ran away prior to her disappearance. This is from Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt. Sara is my friend. Her ex that was recently arrested isn't her child's father. I don't know why the Marion County Sheriff isn't doing anything. She just kinda run away before a few years ago, but it was only for a month or so, and I don't know if her sister was unaware of her location at the time. She was just pretty vague about her reason for suddenly leaving. Weirdly, there was a rumor at the time that something really had happened to her, and we joked about it when she came back. I don't think there would be no sign of her for this long if she intentionally went missing. I'm confused about who gave her a ride from Cafe to the gas station in Reddick and why she was dropped off there. She was a very sweet person and well-liked at Cafe, so I find it hard to believe she couldn't find a ride all the way home from one of the other girls. A reply to this comment from a user claiming to be Sara's sister wrote, "My sister walked from her house to the gas station, and years prior when she disappeared for a few weeks, it was because Joe broke into her house and threatened to kill her. You're welcome." The original user replied back, writing, "I remember when she came back from the few weeks she was gone. She's saying something about family issues, and she kind of hinted it had nothing to do with Joe, but I don't think she really wanted to talk about it. We all got the idea that he was a goddamn psycho. The ride part was confusing for a bit, and there were misconceptions among girls at Cafe that she took an Uber from Cafe and then disappeared, and some have acted as if it were her fault for getting an Uber home. This caused quite a few dressing room arguments, especially since these were comments coming from girls who didn't actually know her, so I do appreciate having the facts. I do have kind of a fond memory from years ago when she was still new at Cafe and she was still nursing. There was this one girl, I think her name was Trixie, who was being awful to her about pumping in the dressing room and storing milk in the fridge, so a lot of girls ganged up on Trixie and she had to quit to go work at Body Shots in Ocala. The user claiming to be Sara's sister replied to a few other posts. Regarding the house Sara was dropped off by the black pickup truck, she says, The property has actually been sold twice, and my sisters are missing 9 months, so it's not that odd because the people that she was hanging out with have been squatting in the property for a year, I recently found out. I found one other piece of information which I found to be interesting. The Reddit user replying to the user claiming to be Sarah's sister mentioned a Joe. In a court record search, I found that Sarah filed for a temporary restraining order against a man by the name of Joseph Mayton on April 16th of 2020. This case was filed in Marion County, Florida courts, Marion County Judicial Center located in Marion, Florida. The hearing on the TRO was scheduled for April 30th, and the notice for the TRO was served to Joseph by the Sheriff's Office on April 21st, 2020. But on April 23rd, 2020, the temporary restraining order petition was dismissed without any details as to why. Sarah's sister Michelle spoke to the media once again and said, quote, "She was such a sweet human. Sarah would never leave her daughter. The investigators already verified she had no bank activity of any kind. I know my sister is likely deceased, and that hurts me because for somebody to harm her, it's just ridiculous to me. I just want justice. I just want them brought to justice." End quote. Since Sarah disappeared, her social media has remained inactive, her bank accounts untouched, and it's believed she took no other belongings with her. Sarah has a scar on her left thigh and a Kokopelli tattoo on her right hip, which is a fertility deity. She has dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, stands at 5 feet 2 inches tall, and weighs 116 pounds. She was last seen wearing a white tank top and black shirt. There is currently a $10,000 reward for anyone with information that may lead to the location of Sara Ebersole. If you have any information whatsoever concerning the disappearance of Sara Ebersole, there's a variety of contact numbers you may reach. The Marion County Sheriff's Office at 352-368-3508 or at 352-732-8181. You may also contact the Marion County Sheriff's Office non-emergency line by calling 352-732-9111. You may also call Detective Ryan Stith directly at 352-368-3542. The Florida Missing Person Unit may also be contacted at 888-356-4774. If you have any information but would like to remain anonymous, you may call the Crime Stoppers of Marion County at 352-368-7867 and reference 23-71. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay safe out there.